Hello, everybody. Welcome or welcome back to The Crow. We are your hosts, Anna Barrett
and Justin Travis. Thank you for joining us. I am a senior at Jacksonville State and the sports editor for the Chanticleer.
And I am a junior and the news editor. We wanted to start a podcast to have more of a conversation with our audience.
Jumping right into the stories from the last week, there have been 6 stories published since the last episode of The Crow.
Jack State dropped 7th straight and lost to Western Kentucky, by me. The Gamecocks extended their losing streak to 7 after a 4-2 loss to the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers Thursday night in the Conference USA home series opener at Rudy Ebbett Field. The first 2 innings were largely uneventful until sophomore shortstop Caleb Johnson hit a double that sent junior second baseman Michael Dallas and freshman second baseman Sam Silas to home plate. The pair's runs put the Gamecocks up 2-0 after the 3rd inning, and the Hilltoppers did not answer until the 6th inning with runs of their own. Western Kentucky scored 3 runs, putting the Gamecocks down 3-2. The Hilltoppers had 1 more run in the ninth, which remained unanswered as junior right fielder Logan Walters struck out to end the game. Following the loss, head coach Steve Beezer kept the team for about 20 minutes, talking mostly about finding ways to win. He said, "We're really scuffling, but some of them just went out and we got beat. But today, we just gave one away." Looking forward, Beezer said he wants the team to focus on maintaining a lead when they have it so they can break their disappointing 7-game losing streak. He said, "We've got to break up this little slump here. We've got to find something different that we can do. And if you saw the game, we were very aggressive on the bases. We were trying to make things happen." The Gamecocks were swept by the Hilltoppers. Friday was a 4-5 loss, followed by a 6-11 loss Saturday. You can find the full article on our website, jsuchanticleer.com, or on our app.
At number 2, we have the International House host Holi celebration by Jaden Cottrell, correspondent. Jacksonville State University's International House celebrated the Festival of Colors, Holi, on Thursday, March 28th. Holi is a traditional Hindu religious festival celebrated in parts of India, Nepal, and other South Asian countries. Holi signifies the beginning of spring and the triumph of good over evil, and is observed in March. One of the most well-known traditions of Holi is people gathering in the streets dressed in all white and throwing colored powder around, creating a mixture of many different vibrant colors. JSU Senator J.D. Hudson says that having an event like this on campus is culturally educating. He said, "It's just very nice to see a change on campus when it comes to having events that aren't in the traditional norm. This isn't something that you would see on every campus. It's very fun and very welcoming." You can read the full article on our website, jsuchanticleer.com, or on our app. We also have an 18-picture gallery up from the celebration.
At number 3, we have our editor-in-chief's regular column, Where Did These Traditions Start? In the column, Madeline Reichard went through the origins of some of her favorite Easter traditions, egg decorating, the Easter Bunny, and Easter candy. On egg decorating, according to History.com and Britannica, this colorful tradition actually started in the Middle Ages with pagan traditions in Europe. There, eggs were viewed as a symbol of springtime regeneration. However, the practice of decorating and dyeing eggs was adopted by Eastern Orthodox and Western churches, according to Britannica. Eastern Orthodox and Western churches used to abstain from eating eggs during Holy Week, the week prior to Easter. Because of this, there grew a need to preserve the eggs, so this tradition began. Since then, it has morphed into a way to demonstrate Jesus' emergence from the tomb and resurrection. On the Easter Bunny, the start of this tradition actually has roots halfway across the world in Germany. According to an article published by the Smithsonian Magazine, accounts dating back to the 1600s describe German children hunting for colorful Easter eggs hidden by the Easter hare. This creature, an ancient symbol of fertility and life, first took root in America in the 1700s, according to History.com. It is said that German immigrants took their folk tale of the Easter hare with them to the United States. On candy, Easter, like holidays such as Halloween and Christmas, have sweet treats associated with them. Easter is known for its candy, a tradition that was started in the 19th century. According to History.com, Easter falls right behind Halloween in candy sales. Egg-shaped candies became heavily associated with this holiday, taking many forms such as Cadbury cream eggs, Reese's peanut butter eggs, and Reichard's personal favorite, jelly beans. Even other variations of Easter candies have emerged, such as marshmallow peeps. You can find the full column on our website, jsuchanticleer.com, or on our app.
At number 4, we have the 4th annual Eggstravaganza, brings in families from the community by Maddie Reed, features editor. The Jacksonville State Student Affairs hosted the 4th annual Eggstravaganza on Saturday at the President's House. JSU President Don Killingsworth and his family attended the event, hosted for the campus and the surrounding community. He said, "It's always good to see young kids and hopefully future Gamecocks running around. And it's good to see the families come in together and just have a nice time together. That's what it's all about." The Easter Bunny was hanging out around the event to take pictures. A petting zoo and ice cream truck were located in the back, and multiple tables were set up around the house with JSU students helping run them. President Killingsworth expressed his wish for more students to be at these events. He said, "We understand it's Easter weekend and students might have gone home to be with their families, and I understand that. But there are all kinds of things to do here over the weekend, so this is just one of the events that we have." You can read the full article on our website or on our app.
At number 5, we have Students Win Awards at Annual Juried Art Show by Adriana Johnson, correspondent. The 51st Annual Juried Student Art Show was held Thursday at the Manners Gallery in Hammond Hall, where students, faculty, and family all supported the students whose art was on display. The art ranged from mixed media, drawing and illustration, art foundations, and graphic design. There were 3 main prizes awarded to students, each prize winner receiving a cash prize. There were also students awarded honorable mentions who received a certificate. Before announcing the winners, Morgan Warsham, the art gallery coordinator, said, "There were so many submissions this year. Participate every year. It's a good resume line, and it's good to get feedback on your work." Camille Myers, one of the students who was awarded an honorable mention certificate, created a found object sculpture titled Frankenstein. She said, "The process was very strenuous, but I loved every second of it." She admitted to dedicating more than 5 hours each day working on the piece. Frankenstein's hair, which was made of paperclips, had 10,000 paperclips. You can find the full article on our website, jsuchanticleer.com, or on our app.
At number 6, we have The Graduates Toast to the Future by Maddie Reed, features editor. Graduating students gathered in the University Recreation Center for a celebratory toast on Tuesday evening. The ceremony was short, but offered many treats for graduates. Some of these included a new alumni tag for their car, opportunities to join the Alumni Association, and the flute that held their champagne. Many of the students expressed fondness of their time at Jacksonville State while at the event. Looking back with their newfound knowledge, graduates even gave current students some advice. Carly Carey, an exercise science major, said, "It's really your support system that is going to get you through it. I can't even say how many times they helped me with homework or just getting through school." According to the Jacksonville State website, commencement ceremonies will be held on May 3rd, with the first ceremony beginning at 9 a.m. You can read the full article on our website, jsuchanticleer.com, or on our app.
Moving right along to our sports update for the week. Justin, take it away.
The Jack State baseball team went 0-3 since the last episode of the podcast, losing their home series last week to Conference USA foe, the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, to extend their losing streak to 9 games. The Gamecock softball team has gone 2-1 since the last episode of the podcast, picking up a road series victory in El Paso, Texas last week over Conference USA foe UTEP. Unfortunately, the softball team had their highly anticipated home matchup at Jen McGinnis Field canceled as they were about to face a nationally ranked University of Alabama team. The Jack State track and field team competed in the UAB Spring Invitational over the past weekend in Birmingham. Junior Kayla Smith came in first in the women's pole vault, setting a new school record in the event at 3.9 meters. Freshman Ela Blessings Akpa also set a new school record at the Invitational, winning the 100-meter race with a time of 11 seconds and 30 milliseconds. Sophomore Haley Tucker also set the UAB facility record in the 400-meter hurdles with a PR time of 1 minute and 41 milliseconds. That's it for the Sports Scores Report. Now it's time for the deep dive section. This past week, Anna, you covered your first ever sports game. How was that?
It was overall very fun, but it was new, right? So I was really nervous, but it ended up being okay. But we wanted to do a deep dive on this because a lot of people may not know what goes into a gamer. They're probably the most seemingly simple stories that we publish, but there's a lot more that goes into it than what you might think. I thought it was going to be really easy and like just very straightforward, but it ended up being a lot more than that.
For the listeners out there, the gamers are one of the many types of sports stories out there. There's also feature style writing, which is like profiles you might see on coaches or players. There's also column style writing, which is more of an opinion piece on basically the writer giving his opinion on certain games or events or anything big going on in the sport at the time. But gamers are more kind of basic stories that you see more in like for high school, basketball, football, just any type of really sport event. And Anna, you did a really good job covering the baseball team.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, they had a loss, so it wasn't
Well,
it wasn't as interesting as it could have been, but I'm very thankful that you went out and covered it, and you did a really good job. So kind of, can you explain this to the audience listening, kind of what that was like covering it and specifically getting interviews after the game?
Yeah. One of my teachers had told me, like, you should write a sports story. It's breaking news. Like, you know how to do it. So I was going to go to the baseball game anyway, and we didn't have anybody covering it, and Justin walked me through it. Thank God, because if I was on my own, it would have been so much more difficult. So I got there, and the press box, if you've never been to it at the baseball field, is very tiny.
And it's hidden.
It's also very hidden. It's not marked like press room here. It's up some stairs and around the corner, and it was intimidating to say the least. So it was very crowded. So I was like, I'm going to go watch the game from the stands. I'll come back up here once the game is over. So I just sat in the stands like a normal fan. Didn't cheer really. But once the game wrapped up, I headed up to the press box. I don't have like media credentials or anything for sporting events. And so I was worried that, people would just kind of not pay attention to me. But Tony Schmidt, the sports information director for baseball, saw me up there, and I was holding my reporter's notebook, and he was like, "Are you a reporter tonight?" I'm like, "Yes." And he goes, "Okay, we're gonna go down here. They're not gonna come up here." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I had no idea where we were going, but I just followed him and the reporter from the Star that was there. We ended up going to the radio room, I guess. Where Mike Paris does his broadcast on WLJS. And we stood in there for maybe 20 minutes waiting for Coach Beezer to get done talking with the team. Their come to Jesus moment is what Mike Paris said during one of the breaks on the radio, and just kind of waited there. And he was like, "I'm going to get off the radio for now. Y'all should probably go down to the field if you want to talk to Coach." So I had no idea where I was going, but luckily the Star reporter did, so I followed him down there. And also, if you've never been, like, inside the baseball stadium, it's huge. Like, I had never been there before. I was just kind of in awe the whole time we were walking. They have ginormous washers and dryers there. I mean, you've got to wash all the uniforms somehow, but they are huge. And so we waited on the field for another 5 minutes before they got done talking, and Tony Schmidt waved us out onto the field, and I got to talk to Coach, and it was a loss, right? So you kind of have to approach it a little differently. So I didn't introduce myself, even though I probably should have. But I had never asked coaches questions before, so I was mainly listening to what the Star reporter was saying and kind of built off of that, and I got to ask a couple of my own questions. And it was a really great learning experience, and there's definitely more to gamers than what meets the eye. I had wondered before I even became a journalist, like, how do they know all this stuff? Like, what do they do? Where do they go? Whenever I would read gamers, before I even knew that's what they were called.
I think that's really one of the cool parts about being a sports journalist is just being able to go on the field and talk with the coach after the game. Win or lose, the coaches is most likely going to be nice to reporters no matter what.
He was very nice, I will say.
But it's always nice just to talk to coach after and just be able to get quotes from him. When you were covering that, I was thinking about my first time covering a sports event and how that was for me. I remember the anxiety I had getting ready to talk to coach, but always remembering kind of the thing where you're also a person and they're also a person, and you're just having a conversation with them about the game, win or lose. And it's really fun when you can think about it that way. I know a lot of people think of it, it's kind of more than it is. People think journalism is like really big and they get nervous talking to us as well. But it's always nice just to calm your nerves and just be able to talk to them like a normal person. And also with the Chanticleer, you have your chance to kind of like go outside of your boundaries. And like you said, you're not used to covering sports, and I'm not used to covering news as well. So I had the chance to cover some news. So the Chanticleer offers the chance to kind of try new things. So I really like that about the Chanticleer.
It's one of the best things about it. We have this safety net. If we do mess up, it's okay because we're still learning. I learned how to cover a sports story, and you've learned how to cover city council, which at the end of the day is kind of a game in and of itself. There's votes and there's a winner in some aspect.
It's always interesting to kind of see the dual aspects of both sides. And it really lets you kind of expand your role as a journalist as well, to never like take certain interviews for granted. Like you're always going to get a good quote from different things. So it's always good to try your best when giving interviews and getting quotes. And I'd also say that just try to expand your role. Like doing a podcast is also us expanding our
realm of skill. Justin and I don't know how to do a podcast. Justin's in the podcasting class this semester, but we made this plan before he started, so it's really been a learning curve, but we have the ability to have that learning curve because we're in this environment and we're able to expand our skills and cover things that aren't necessarily in our wheelhouse, but it's the team aspect of it.
And one of the cool things I think you mentioned when you were talking about covering the sports is that you didn't really cheer. And there are certain rules about being a sports journalist that you have to follow. One in particular being if you're in a press room, specifically for football, but in any sports press room, you cannot wear team-affiliated attire. Yeah. And you cannot cheer for any certain team. So it's kind of very hard to hold your emotions in. I remember during the football season, there would be times where I have to like hold down on my chair to stop me from jumping out of my seat, specifically during comebacks against Sam Houston or in the New Orleans Bowl. Were always in particular memories that stand out in my head. But there are certain rules journalists have to follow that the audience may not know, that we can't even do certain things, wear certain things, because that it makes you seem biased, and you never want to seem biased in news reporting or in sports reporting as well. So, and
I think my experience with news helps with that. I was talking to one of my writers who's been dabbling in sports, and he told me, it's really hard to write a story whenever we lose. And I'm like, yes, it is. Like, it's not fun to lose. Like, we want to win every game, but that's not the reality of it. The truth is we lost. And you've got to write a story, win or lose, because that's the news. Like, even with news stories, you focus on the biggest part. The biggest part of the baseball game was that this made their losing streak 7. So that's what I led with, because that was like the biggest thing, right? And having that news lens over it, I think made it easier for me to write the story even though we lost. Because like while I was disappointed as a fan that we lost, I still had a job to do that didn't rely on us winning or losing. I still had to remain unbiased and give the audience the truth.
I think that's really one of the cool parts about, taking on the role of a journalist is like you're still sometimes your favorite moments are going to be in a loss. Like I remember after the loss to South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina, which I had the opportunity to go to, I got to see the emotions on Rich Rodriguez's face and particularly talk about that in the story and get quotes about that. But you can tell in that moment, yes, it was a loss, but it's amazing to see how much he cares, not just about this team, but about the school. And he wants the school to be successful. So that was really cool to see. And just talk about that in particular about being a journalist. I can't even imagine having a bad day and then being interviewed after having a bad day. Like that would just be terrible, but they handle it professionally. And I think that's one of the best parts about being a sports journalist is kind of getting to talk with these people in the best moments and in the low moments and try to make it a little bit better for them if you can.
Absolutely. I remember one time I was at a journalism conference, and there was this program where students could basically cover the conference for the conference. And I was having like one of the worst days ever. Like I was super stressed and I was not paying attention to the session that I was in. But one of those students came up to me afterwards and was like, "Hey, how do you think this session was?" I'm like, "Oh." And so it is difficult to be interviewed after you're like when you're having a bad day. I mean, I can't possibly imagine how coaches remain so reliable and human whenever you interview them after they lose.
And I think that's another kind of rule we follow is like we already mentioned biases, but even if you're trying to avoid it, if somebody has a great game against you, sometimes that's the biggest story of the news. So, for example, in basketball, if somebody drops 40 against us and we lose by like 30, I'm still going to mention the other team the other guys scoring 40 points for the team because it's the biggest story from the game. And I think that's a lot of times what we got to keep in mind. That even though we're a Jacksonville State student newspaper, we always have to cover bigger things outside of campus and outside of our community.
I think the best way to explain that is we live here, but we are not affiliated with the university. Yes, they fund us. Yes, we have support from them. But at the end of the day, we are our own organization and we have independence from them. And so, yeah, we lost, but
there's still a story there.
There's still a story.
And you have to tell it to the audience because it's their right to know what the story was.
It's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think moral of the story is try something new because it's fun and scary at times, but definitely worth it. So as we wrap up this episode, let's talk about what you can look forward to throughout the week and the next episode. On Thursday, April 4th, there is a College of Business and Industry career fair from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Merrill Hall. There is another addition to the Wright Southerners poetry reading. There's another addition to the Wright Southerners poetry reading series. This will be from Jessica Kidd and Gregory Ariel, and that will be from 4:30 to 6 in the auditorium in Merrill. Also on Thursday, the Bandorama concert will be from 7 to 8 p.m. in the Pete Matthews Coliseum. At the Bandorama, there will be a concert from the Chamber Winds, the Wind Ensemble, Symphonic Band, and the Jazz One Ensemble. On Friday, April 5th, there will be an Innovation Expo from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the Leon Cole Auditorium.
Also on Friday, women's tennis, track and field, bowling, beach volleyball, and soccer will all compete on the road. The baseball team will also play FIU on Friday at 6 p.m. here at Jacksonville. The softball team will also play New Mexico State here in Jacksonville at 6 p.m. as well.
On Saturday, April 6th, the annual Southerners Symposium will be happening, so if you see a lot of children around campus, that's why. The sorority Alpha Zeta Delta will be hosting a pickleball tournament from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. That'll be at the JSU tennis courts. Following that, from 7 to 8 p.m., the Encore Show Choir will hold its spring showcase.
On Saturday, track and field, beach volleyball, and men's tennis continues their competitions on the road, while the softball team continues their home series against New Mexico State at 1 p.m. on Saturday, and the baseball team does the same against FIU at 6 p.m. on Saturday. On Sunday, April 7th, women's tennis plays at Sam Houston at 10 a.m., the softball team plays New Mexico State at 12 p.m. in Jacksonville, and the men's tennis team plays at Gardner-Webb University at 1 p.m. Also at 1 p.m., the baseball team finishes off their home series against FIU.
On Monday, April 8th, there will be a student tax filing event in the Houston Colt Library from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will also be a solar eclipse viewing starting at 12:30 on the TMB lawn. The sun in Jacksonville will be obscured 85% during the eclipse. There will also be a wind ensemble and symphonic band concert from 7 to 8 p.m. at Gadsden City High School.
Men's golf will play at the Irish Creek Intercollegiate in Kannapolis, North Carolina. Also on Monday, the beach volleyball team will play at Austin Peay at 1 p.m. in Clarksville, Tennessee.
On Tuesday, April 9th, there will be a Holocaust Remembrance program from 7 to 9 p.m. in Merrill Hall. According to the JSU event calendar, the main speaker will be Chris Birdie. He is a second-generation Holocaust survivor, and he will share the story of his father's survival in occupied France following his grandparents' and extended family members' expulsion from Vienna after the Nazi annexation of Austria in 1938.
Also next Tuesday, the men's golf team will finish off their competition in the Irish Creek Intercollegiate. The beach volleyball team will continue to play Austin Peay at 10 a.m., and the beach volleyball team will face off against Tennessee Tech at 12:30 p.m. in Clarksville, Tennessee. Baseball wraps up the day as they face off against Georgia State at 6 p.m. here in Jacksonville.
On Wednesday, April 10th, there will be a Writing Center workshop on avoiding plagiarism from 3 to 4 p.m. in the Stone Center, room 228. Thank you all for listening. Just as a reminder, on top of being able to listen to The Crow on our website, you can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.
The Crow will also be aired on WLJS 91.9 FM on Thursday morning at 9, but it will run Friday afternoon at 4 to accommodate for the aforementioned baseball game broadcast at 6.
We are your hosts, Anna Barrett
and Justin Travis. We will meet you back here next week.